Hi there. You find me stuck on what we call in Delhi Golden Dragon flyover. That is because this is the lead up to Horse Cars metro station. Anyway, in this Kushan Drives video, I'm not going to be talking about traffic, nor am I actually going to be talking about this Honda City EHEV I've been driving for the last week and finding it rather fascinating. But what I do want to talk about is the fact that today morning another news story came out where there had been a pretty bad accident involving a BMW. And the fact that it involved a BMW was in the headline. And this is the same case whenever there's an accident that involves a luxury car brand, whether it's BMW, whether it's Audi, whether it's Mercedes. And it's been the case ever since the first major quote-unquote BMW hit-and-run case that, of course, involved a very famous personality in Delhi. This is almost 15 years ago. And I remember at the time, Peter Constabel, who was the president of BMW India, was tearing his hair out saying, what's the fault of the car? When what the person did, that accident involved the person running into a Delhi police traffic barrier at speed and then running away, hitting the barrier and running away. 2 people died. Very sad story. The media fought a lot. The person involved went to spend some time in jail. I would have blamed the police over there because at that point in time, the police did not put reflectors or lights on these barriers. Now, in fairness to Delhi police and some other police forces, particularly in cities in India, they do put reflectors and lights on these barriers because at night, very often you cannot see them. And the night that accident happened, it was foggy, but I won't get into that accident anymore. But I think this should become an SOP even for the barriers that are put on highways. I've driven down Delhi Jaipur and to on GT road at night at times, and there are these barriers and they're zero lighting. Maybe there's one reflector on them and you can see them literally at the last minute. And thank God for modern cars and their brakes. Now, coming back to the news story, even back then it wasn't the fault of the car, and the story today involved a BMW climbing onto a pavement and unfortunately mowing down 2 people who were sleeping on the pavement. The story should be why 2 people were sleeping on the pavement in today's day and age in India, and that's a failure of governance. More likely than not, the person involved might have been drunk. God knows what the results of his talk screen will reveal. But it wasn't the fault of the car. Now, this car I'm driving, this is the Honda City EHEV, has something called, and you heard the alarm go off over there because the car in front of me brakes suddenly. That's a collision mitigation warning. I also have a road departure warning, which is if I start going off to the side, it will read the fact that there's a verge and trees over there and sort of bring the car back. Of course, I've got lane departure warnings, everything. And there's another story to be done on ADAS, which I'll talk about in a future video. But why are we blaming the car? Now, I've been a fan of the show called Air Crash Investigations on National Geographic. And in that, they talk about the post-mortem they do on most air accidents. And you find out that very often, more often than not, it is pilot error. Pilots didn't do something or did do something and they bungled up. Similarly, modern cars are very, very, very good. They have all sorts of advanced features. They've got very, very good brakes. And the reason we talk about BMW, about Audi, or about Mercedes, and very amusing story was once with Peter told me, was there was an accident, I think in Chennai or Hyderabad, one of the southern cities, which involved a Mercedes. And the headline was, in a story reminiscent to Delhi's BMW incident, there was an accident in said city. And Peter was telling me that what's my fault over here? Yeah, it's amusing. And honestly, but the point about mentioning these brands is that they're almost always owned by the rich and famous, those cars, particularly newer BMWs and Audis. And I'll get to another aspect of this going forward. So if you have a new BMW or a new Audi, or a new Mercedes, you're probably wealthy, right? And blaming the car there is bizarre, but you're trying to make a connection that, oh, this kid, and as I'm talking as a newspaper editor over here or a news editor for many years, I understand why the urge to mention the brand in the headline is there by somebody on the desk, because you're trying to hint that the person is rich or powerful. And BMWs are, and Mercedes and Audis are considered by, and they know, and even the general public knows about the brands. I mean, you look at the number of cars or taxis in Delhi that particularly that have the BMW M colors. Audi has 1 million followers on social media in India. So you want to be known, if you want to make the brand aspirational, but the downside of it is lots of people know the brand. A few years ago in Delhi, there was an accident that involved a Bentley Bentayga. Now, Bentley Bentayga is somebody who owns a Bentley Bentayga is even richer than the average BMW or Audi or Mercedes buyer. But that guy, I think, ran into an auto rickshaw and killed two foreigners from the CIS country. I don't remember. But that sort of, the news about that case died down quickly. It involved somebody rather powerful. So I think that's why it also got shut down a bit quicker than most other news stories. But it's always, this rich versus poor thing, how the poor, the rich get away with murder or these accidents involving them. Honestly speaking, I don't think that's fair. I mean, I know a lot of bus drivers and truck drivers who are to blame, who get away with running down people as well. We've heard of cases of people being hit while they're on motorcycles, and you're trying to prosecute the truck driver or the bus driver. It doesn't happen, and that's a flaw of the entire accident prosecution system. We don't know if the truck driver, the bus driver was drunk, or as I mentioned before, did he have good eyesight? We don't know that. So yes, it's not fair to blame the car. The car is actually not to blame. The driver of the car is to blame. But I think we talk about the brand in the story headline because we want to give this perception that, oh my God, this is somebody rich, this is somebody powerful. How will these two poor people who are sleeping on the pavement get justice? And yes, it's a valid question. How will those people get justice? You're also trying to hint at the headline that this person who did this horrible deed should pay them off. He's a 27-year-old businessman in the latest story. Yes, it's this rich versus poor debate. It always happens in India. But I think we have a whole failure in the prosecution system of accidents, whether you're rich or poor. If you've caused an accident, even a fatal accident, you usually get away with it. I know the ministry under Mr. Nitin Gadkari wants to change that, but yeah, that's another story for another time. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know your comments. Should the brand be mentioned in the stories at all? What do you think about it? Thank you so much for watching. And there's a Delhi police car breaking the light without his flashers on. Not done.